podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, dear listener. I'm not sure how much longer we can say good day because our Australian export is now back. But, you know, we've got some followers down under. And welcome to another preview show of the Dockers Debate, episode 89, Robert. 89. We're 11 away from three figures.
Amazing.
Just like my darts, we're 11 away from three figures. That's how bad I am. So for today's game, or tomorrow's game, should I say, for today's show, we are again joined by Trevor Knell from footballwriting.co.uk, our expert and guru on all football outside the M25. You know what that is, Trev, you're our break glass journalist now. Trev, we can't find anyone. Quick.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much for having me on again. You know, and I'm quite happy to give anything expertly wise outside the M25 to you both.
Yeah, there's a few Welsh teams who look good, but no, Rob, how are we anyway?
Watcher, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Yeah, having a good morning so far. Things have panned out okay.
Yeah, checked in the bags for the flight simulator game.
Yep, bags are packed, ready to go.
Yeah, and we're off. Trev, you're obviously a big listener to the pod. Just to let those who didn't listen to the last game was so interesting. Me and Rob spoke about the flight simulator game and things that we do to get sort of all ready to play the game indoors, carrying suitcases around our house to get into character. But we are here for today's or tomorrow's, as I keep saying today, for tomorrow's big crunch game between Steyning Town Community and Erith Town. Steyning Town Community doesn't make great reading for them. Bottom of the league, Erith Town have dropped to 11th. You can argue that we've dropped to 11th due to the games in hand, but also the midweek defeat against high-flying Burgess Hill doesn't help much neither. Trev, we've got you on to talk about the opposition today. Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, very difficult season so far for Steyning. Ran away with the Southern Combination Premier Division title last year to get promoted to Step 4 for the first time ever. However, the manager that led them on a 20-match unbeaten run after Christmas then quit about a week or two afterwards, and they found it really hard going ever since.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Just to touch on it there before we talk on to the league form and all this kind of thing. We found over the years, with all due respect, that we find that the sort of combined counties and SCEFL divisions for Step 5 are really good level, if you get what I mean. So like when we played Sussex in the FA prelims last year, we were quite comfortable winners there. Peacehaven and Telscombe, again, same level, but dominated pretty much. We played Pagham, first game in the prelim this year, a Step 5 team, but again, a team who might struggle in SCEFL, if you will. How much do you think that? Yes, okay, you said that that they got promoted from Step 5 last year. Is there just too much of a gap in quality between their Step 5 and Step 4 compared to, say, SCEFL's?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I watch a lot of SCEFL football as well, follow a lot of SCEFL teams as well. And I've said, I think as well, though, across the country, that when you step from 5 to 4 and from 2 to 1, those gaps are absolutely massive. When you look at moving from 4 to 3, from 3 to 2, and from 6 to 5, the gap isn't quite the same. And I think as well, a lot of the Sussex teams really struggle with the travel heading to Kent, and I know the Kent clubs have got to do exactly the same on the alternate fixture. Quality wise, SCEFL, I would say from the 4 is the best of the 4, and then I'd go with the combined counties, Wessex, and then the Southern Combination at the very bottom. And I think we were talking off air as well about so many clubs around locally. I think I mentioned it last time as well when we were previewing the Littlehampton game as well. There are just so many clubs around, and the amount of players in terms of quality wise, I don't think it's anywhere as good from when I moved down quite a few years ago. Steyning, I mean, are a little bit out on a limb where they are, as you'll find if you go to the game on Saturday. They haven't got a lot around them in terms of competition. You've got a 20 minute, 20-mile journey up the road to Horsham. You've got Lancing, Shoreham, and Storrington are probably the nearest clubs to them, and you've only got Lancing at that level. So it's just that one of those kind of awkward clubs almost. Great club, but awkward in terms of where they're placed more than anything else.
Do you think, just to quickly jump in there as well, and please, any listener from Steyning, don't take this the wrong way, but do you think it could be also with like the name of the club and who they are? Because like I say, if you look at like the South East and you say the competition for places, you could imagine like that there's teams with not saying they've not got pedigree or anything like that, but because they've got history. I looked, they've been around for a long time, and they've got a lot of heritage. But you've got some names: Sheppey, Beckenham, even Croydon Athletic. Let's have a look near the top of the tree as well. Margate, Ramsgate, Sittingbourne. You've got some big names. Do you think it is a kind of a place where people are like, not really too sure? Because in truth, I'll hold my hands up, and again, please don't be offended. We try and stay neutral. When we look through the fixture list, Rob and I, we obviously put the list together and we put it on the website and made the graphics. But I'm like, I haven't even heard of half of these teams, and Steyning is one of them.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, you could probably lump Broadbridge Heath in with there as well, just outside Horsham, who won the Southern Combination the year before. Littlehampton Town maybe is a little bit more known because it's a coastal town and a tourist town. But yeah, there's probably a few clubs, if you look into the Southern Combination Premier Division as well, you would look at them and go, where the hell is that? Because it's just not something you come across unless you've drawn them in the FA Vase Trophy or the FA Cup. So yeah, there is a little bit of that with some of the names.
Yeah, and like I say, don't get me wrong. Just for clarity, as a Millwall fan, I think if you was to go to like countries in Europe who only watch the Premier League, and you go, oh, we've signed a new player, like Millwall signed Ivanovic, and you used to go to like Serbia and go, oh, he plays for Millwall, they'd be like, who are they? So it's not just non-league football where you'd go, who are they, a little bit. So yeah, no, sorry, Rob, I'm jumping all over you at the moment. You jump in, mate.
No, I was going to say I was looking at obviously we always look at the league table. We try and look at some of the stats and try and see where it's going. It's pretty hard to do that with Steyning because they are sitting rock bottom of the table. But I was looking at obviously it says if you look at the results, they've won 3, they've drawn 4, they've lost 17, which is not good really for anybody. But when you look at the form guide, they're comfortably mid-table currently because they've out of those 4 draws, 3 of them have come in their last 6 games. One of the wins was their last game, and they've only lost 2. So, do you think they might be on something of an upturn? Has anything changed there that you might know about? And that things sort of suddenly get, because once you stop losing, because losing is a terrible habit to get into. Because once you get into that habit, it's hard to get out of it. But it looks like they've stopped losing recently. And that seems like they might. I don't know whether it's too late to turn it around, but it doesn't look like they're going to be the cannon fodder that we all think they're going to be.
Well, coincidentally, one of my mates, Mike Ham, has gone in as assistant manager, which has coincided with the change in form.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so that might be a little bit. He literally came in for the 1-1 draw against Beckenham. Was the first game he was actually involved in. And Mike's done a bit of coaching and managing around the Bognor area, which is where he's from, and he's currently studying for his UEFA B license at the moment. So he was actually approached to go in there, and obviously he's had a look at it and seen what they need. And I know, pardon my French, he's working his nuts off to try and get some players in there, which is obviously difficult when you're bottom of the league and you'd only won a couple of games. And, obviously the victory against Ashford, did them the world of good. They really lack a goal scorer, which a lot of clubs do at that level as well. I mean, ironically, as I spoke to you guys for the Littlehampton game, I think within days, Rob O'Toole had left there. Joe Ben had retired, so they were down to 1 striker. They really are 10 a penny down here in Sussex. But we said on our SNLF podcast, the first one we did last week, for the year, that they really need to get some points this month. If they don't, you can pretty much say the last 3 months are going to be a write-off. And I think only the fact that possibly Hyde and Phoenix are not showing any signs of turning anything around. Littlehampton are really struggling as well. And Lancing looking like the only ones at the moment in that bottom 6 or 7 that actually want to win some games and pull away. But I think they need at least another possibly 4 points this month, give them 7 for the month. And I think they've then got a shot at it, but they've got to continue that form then for the next 3 months of the season.
Yeah, you were saying there about like obviously the new assistant coming in and upturning form, and you did say about Phoenix, and you're kind of right, but they've brought in sort of some new management and some new people over the last couple of months, and do you know what? They're bottom of the league, Hive on 14, Phoenix 14 points, Littlehampton on 17. It's not as dire as it was about 6 weeks ago, where a lot of those teams were on single figures. I mean, sort of looking at Phoenix, there was 1 point, to be fair to them. They were looking like they was going to be on 9 points for the rest of the season. They were really struggling, but they've had a little bit of a turn in form. And Rob was just saying there, Steyning are one of the now mid-table teams. But looking at the stats, 26 goals scored in 24. It's not a lot, and they're conceding 54. They've got to turn it around quite quickly if they do.
Yeah, I was having a look as well. The top goal scorer at the moment is Jack Barnes, who's got 5, and Harvey Killick, who's recently come in and notched 5 as well. Jack plays as a holding midfielder. I know some of those goals have come from penalties as well, so that maybe tells its own story there, in that you're holding midfielders, your top goal scorer. The third top goal scorer they've got, Alfie Rogers, with 4, is actually back at New Haven now. He didn't last long at Steyning either, so that's been a huge part of their problem. I did have a look to their 16 players named against Ashford in the win, and only 5 of that side were in the side that won the Southern Combination Premier Division last year. So that in itself, I think, tells a little bit of a story of how high the turnover of players been. Even looking back to the start of the season, I was having a quick look through their starting lineups there and substitutes, and there probably isn't more than about another 2 or 3 players you would have added to that who've now moved on as well, some to a couple of other step 4 sides as well. So that's been their problem, I think. I don't think their budget is massively huge either. And just another thing that goes against them. And of course, being that your first year in promotion, there's ground improvements you've got to get done, or you'll get stung for relegation anyway.
Yeah, we had the same thing. It is tricky when you're moving up. There's no 2 ways about it. So, looking at their none of their players are scoring for fun, as we know. But who do you think, if they've got any threat at all, where do you think it's coming from now?
They've actually got in their ranks at the moment Elliot Romain, who you might well know from his Ebbsfleet days and Three Bridges and a few other tour of clubs around Kent. He's currently playing for them. He hasn't scored yet, and he's been there, I think, only about 4 or 5 weeks. Like everyone else, I haven't played a lot of football over the last few weeks because the games away from home on grass have been called off, whereas obviously they got their lovely 3G service. Freddie Chester they've brought in on loan from Worthing, who've got a very good under-18, under-19 team, and do loan a lot of their players out. He was at Horndean earlier in the campaign in the South Central Division, and Mike's managed to entice him over to Steyning. So I think that would be where the 2 main threats will come from. The other threat they do have is a lad called Harry Schumann, who was part of the title-winning side last year. Went back to Whitehawk at the beginning of the season, but then returned to Steyning within a couple of months. But he's actually a left winger. But the last time I saw Steyning play, he was playing at centre half. That's how short they were of players. And they actually at half time brought a centre half on and moved him up to left wing. But the damage was done in that game by then. So he's a very decent winger, young lad. I think he's only about 21, 22. But that'll be where the main threats will come from. And Danny Howick's a very towering centre half as well, who was at Lancing last year and moved to Rains Park Vale, I think, in the South Central early this year, but it's come back to Sussex as well.
Yeah. Where can you see this game being won and lost then?
I think because they don't score a lot of goals, if you can stop the delivery from Harry, if he does play left wing, The ground does slope a little bit away down the side rather than from end to end. So possibly depending on which way you kick first, might depend on how much work you've got to do in the second half as well. If your delivery into the box is sharp, it stays away from Danny Howick, you've got a very good chance again. I don't know a lot about Freddie Chester, to be absolutely honest. I think he's only hit the net once or twice so far. But again, the lack of games they've had, they've not had a chance to pop too many in the net. But they really need to get something. I think, especially from their home games and playing against sides that are used to playing, on grass for their home games. Although there are a lot of 3G surfaces in that division, I think, as I said to someone the other week, that someone like Lancing are going to stay up based on their home form, not on their away form.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's really interesting with Erith, because again, looking at the table now, Erith are having a great season so far. Like for the stand we are, it was very much, as we've said before, very much, just try and stay up, consolidate, etc. But if you have a look, only the top 5 have lost more games than Erith, which is a really good stat from my point of view. But the top 10 have all won more games than Erith. So it's a really, really tough one to call from an Erith Town point of view, don't you think, Rob?
I think so. I mean, you look at it, and on paper, you'd kind of go, we're all over this, without a doubt. But yeah, I don't know. The thing that I think I've noticed most since we moved up to this league is that I know it's an old cliche, and a hoary old cliche at that, is that anyone can beat anyone at any time, it seems to me. And the great leveller for all of these teams seems to be, got sloping pitches and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And whether or not you've got a decent fan base counts for a lot, a loud fan base counts for a lot. But the travel for a lot of these clubs, it's a long, it's an up and down. It's a long old, we were talking about Saturday. It's a couple of hours in each direction for us to get there, and that's in a car. If you're you're sitting there in a little minivan and you're poodling along at 60 mile an hour, 55, 60 mile an hour, it's getting on for close to a 3-hour drive each way. And it's that travel and all that kind of stuff sort of adds up. So when you get there, you look at it and you kind of go, well, we should have these. We should have these on toast all day long. And then suddenly you find it's a much harder game than you thought it was going to be. And I've noticed that across, when I'm looking at you always get some shock results every weekend. But in this league, it seems to me it's completely different in terms from SCEFL. In SCEFL, there's very, very definitely a bottom 10. There's very definitely kind of a middle 5 or 6, and very definitely the top 4 or 5. In this league, it seems that, although obviously the top clubs are always going to be the flying, in that big middle section, anyone can beat anyone in any game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you said about Steyning's run or their recent form. Ashford was one of the teams that they beat, I believe, recently, and Ashford are 9th, and only 2 points off the playoffs. So it is crazy. But I've just had the little indicator to say we ain't got overly long left, so we're going to have to start wrapping this up. Trevor's yours, our guest again, and you are the oracle of outside M25 football. I'll let you have the first prediction. What do you think the score is going to be?
I reckon, given the fact you've lost your last 2 and only 1 win in 5, they've only had 1 loss in 5. I think they'll run you hard, but I fancy it's going to end 2-1 to you.
2-1. This is the most diplomatic scoreline ever that everyone always says. I'll tell you what, if there's a drinking game for every time Rob picks 2-1, we'd all be going Alcoholics Anonymous tomorrow. Rob, what do you reckon the score is going to be?
I'm going to go for a comfortable 3-0 to the Dockers.
Yeah, I was looking at that because you've had it. I'll go with 3-1. As we say, 28 goals conceded for Erith and 28. So we do leak some, but again, compared to some of those other teams, we don't actually leak that many compared to the top half of the table. But I can see 1 or 2 leaking in. But yeah, I'll go for a 3-1. Excuse me. Ultimately, Erith, as you say there, Trev, we've got to turn this form around. We're not panicking by any means, but we want to get that 40 points. But no, again, thank you very much for your time, Trev. I'm sure we'll have you on again when we are talking about someone like I don't know, Broadbridge Heath, and we can't find the mascot because he can't get his bare head off. But no, thank you for your time. Good luck with the blog.
Thank you.
And as we say, we've seen you've registered with Company's House as well, so well done on that. Getting it all proper. Do you want to give it a quick plug before you go?
Yeah. If you want to have a listen, Steyning did get a bit of a mention this week, so there weren't so many games last week as well. It's the SNLF podcast, and it's www.thesnlf.co.uk. Covers all 56 Sussex clubs from the National League down to the Southern Combination Division 1.
Exactly. Clearly busier than us because we only do one club. And Rob, if for those who have seen him before, Rob had an afro before we started doing this podcast. Rob, should we bid you adieu as well?
Yeah, can do. I was just giggling to myself because you do look a lot like a Sharpay. I don't know what you're wearing, but yeah.
Poncho, I'm freezing. Listen, without getting political, that winter fuel tax has been taken, mate. Heat the person, not the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be the new slogan. The Dockers debate, heat the person, not the room. Anyway, good luck to all those playing tomorrow. Trevor, again, thank you for your time. And up the Dockers.
Up the Dockers indeed.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.